Hello, welcome to Underpin Consultants live stream. My name is Lewis English. I'm a change and growth consultant. That means we help people grow their businesses, or if they want to change their businesses, we come in and help them with the processing, the development of strategies, but also with marketing, PR, and all of that kind of good stuff. Today, we're doing the third version of our Reddit, having a look at Reddit stuff and seeing how we can advise and having a look at the kind of stuff that other people are advising as well. It's one of my favorite things to do, mainly because it's a really good way to answer real life kind of consultation questions. We do a lot of free consultations. In fact, I had 3 last week, but obviously those are quite personal and not public, and so we can't really go into any great detail about what people are asking because there's a confidentiality there. But what we want to be able to do is still give some good advice, and so we head over to Reddit where people are asking for advice, and we see what we can do. So we've got 4 today. We're going to see how that goes. If we can try and find any more, then we'll do that too. So let's get going. The first one is from Dependent Quote 5340. He says he's thinking of throwing in, or she is thinking of throwing in the towel. Anonymous account, I'm 30 years old, living with my parents still, no social life, and I've never touched a girl. Great. I run a manufacturing business that I set up 4 years ago after COVID, as another company I was running basically shut down due to lockdown and strikes killing the industry for 2 years. My business is doing okay, but but anytime I have money, it just goes out the door on more kit. It sounds like it's an engineering firm. Turnover is about £100,000 a year. That's pretty good. I have a 300 square foot unit and I work there 6 to 7 days a week. First red flag for me. Alone, another red flag. I can't afford any help. I can't afford my own salary. I can just about afford my fuel and food from selling the last of my eBay stock, of which eBay has gone to poop, and I'm basically just selling off the rest of my stock I bought 5 years ago. Things keep going from worse, wrong on the manufacturing side of things. I keep making mistakes. I'm having trouble inspecting my work. I end up not ordering all the right parts for a job all the time. Some clients provide their own parts, and it's annoying as they never provide enough for the job, and so then I have to stop that work halfway through. Sometimes I get a call asking, okay, so I'm going to stop there. Okay. There has been in 2.5 paragraphs, 0 positives. Now, I understand that this will be a mentality thing. Obviously, this person is putting stuff on Reddit. They're obviously exasperated. The first thing I can see here in all that white space between the two, between the lines, is this person is burnt out. This person clearly dislikes their job. Whether they dislike their job in the moment, as in when they are writing this, or they hate it all the time, is an interesting question to ask, and that's a piece of information we don't know. And one of the things I like to clarify as a business is, as a business consultant to businesses, is this how you feel right now, or is this how you always feel? And if it's how you feel right now, go and take a walk, go and have some, I'm going to have some lunch, go and touch some grass, but come back and have a think about if that's really fair. If you're thinking about this like this all the time, and you're being incredibly negative all the time, you're burnt out. And if you're burnt out, you're not going to be productive. Running through some of the, let's assume we're talking about face value stuff here. So again, with Reddit, it's always subjective, but if someone is running £100,000 a year business, has a 3,000 square foot unit that they work in 6 to 7 days a week alone, but can't afford any help, can't afford their own salary, there is something fundamentally wrong with that business. Because what that business is doing is working to make turnover and not working to make profit. So for me, one of the things I would want to do as a business consultant is work out where all that money is going. Because either they are in a situation where they're in an industry that has no way of making money at all, so you will always lose money, or you are in an industry where you are inefficient and there are countries and companies and processes that are much better than you, If you're turning over £100,000 a year, then you're clearly doing something right, because people want you to be making the things that you want. You know, if it's an engineering thing, that's either one very large £100,000 worth of stuff, or that's £100,000 of very small things, whether it's a sprocket or a rocket. It doesn't really matter. £100,000 is good, but if you're barely able to make ends meet, that's quite a difficult thing. So one of the things that I would want to have a look at is whether that £100,000 a year, where it's going, why is it going back out? And one of the things I would do is I would look at how much other people are charging, because if you're the only person in your industry and you're losing money, then that industry doesn't exist. But that industry clearly does exist. And so what you want to be able to do is look at what other people are charging. Are you incredibly cheap? Are you incredibly expensive? Where do you sit within it? So do some competitor analysis. The next thing is selling on eBay commercially. It's difficult. I don't know what they're selling, but for me, you would want to be more business to business. I don't think businesses would buy £100,000 worth of stock through eBay. They would probably want things done on a business to business level. Things keep going wrong on the manufacturing side. I keep making mistakes. I'm having trouble. Part of that will be because you're in this frame of mind. You're in everything is terrible, everything is awful, I'm never going to recover, I'm working really hard and I'm not doing anything. I'm not getting anything in return for it. That's one thing. Second thing is you might not have the processes in place to do the thing you need to do. And so one of the things that I've kind of having a look at all of this, you can see, it veers off into holidays, it veers off into wasted lifting flooring, the car broke down, all of that kind of stuff. And for me, it feels like the resilience is gone for the business owner. They have absolutely no resilience. Everything that happens is an absolute disaster. And it feels to me like there's a massive amount of burnout. I think if they want to continue, they need to have a real plan and an understanding of why they're doing things. They need to speak to someone. It doesn't necessarily have to be a business consultant like us, but it would be, they need to decide, as they say at the very bottom there, whether they're done running the business, because they've said they're clearly not cut out of it. Time to sell the assets and throw in the towel. Would I be able to buy a tiny blah, 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 and used car if I could sell it all for what I bought it for? So if it was making lots of money, great. If it's not making lots of money, I would ask why it's not making lots of money. But there's a bigger problem here, which is it sounds to me like this business owner doesn't care whether it makes money or not. They're done. And my question would be to them, if you think about the future, if you could sit down or wave a magic wand or rub a magic lamp and get a wish, and your wish was all of a sudden you're making 4 times as much money for doing the exact same work, would you do that work gladly if it was a profitable thing? If not, then that job is not for you and it never will be. If you say, yeah, actually, a lot of this is money related, a lot of this is I'm struggling because I'm not able to provide for myself or my family or whatever it is I'm trying to do, then we can work on the plan. Then we can work on how we look at business viability. Is it viable for you to run this business? If it's not viable to you to run this business, go do something else, because there's no point working in a non-viable business. But if it is viable, if you've just got to put some good processes in, if it's raise your prices, if it's move away from eBay, which, most of the time is lowest common denominator, into something that's more bespoke. If you think about, let's take an example of 3D printing. So if you've got a 3D printing company and you're 3D printing small little toys and tchotchkes and dice towers for D&D, and you're selling them from anywhere between £1 and £15 on a market stall, or on Etsy or on eBay, then that's an awful lot of turnover that you're going to need to get any real money. The profit margins are going to be slightly less. But if you're a 3D printing company that manufactures obsolete parts for renewable energy providers, so, clips for solar panels or drains or particular pieces of plastic that don't get made anymore, and you can charge a premium for that, and you can sell them at 100,000 a time or 1,000 a time, That for me is it's not a better business, it's not a worse business, but it's a different kind of business. So one of the questions I would want to ask this person is, you've clearly got skills, you've been doing it for 5 years, you're clearly able to generate turnover. Why aren't you able to generate profit? Why aren't you able to hire anybody else? What is it that you want from life? And kind of try to get them out of this kind of despondency mindset. That's what I would want to do initially. And then do a viability report on the business, work out where all of this money is going, where it's leaking out of the business. Can we do anything about those leaks, or is that just a hole that has to be there? If it's a hole that has to be there, maybe this business isn't right. But if the hole can be plugged, or it can, we can increase prices, or we can improve quality, or we can put processes in place, and you're willing to follow those processes, great. That sounds good. Let's get going. But you're going to have to want to do it. You're going to have to not be burnt out. You're going to have to willingly work for free and to do this, and maybe even pay someone to help you deliver it. But it sounds to me like that's the kind of conversation I would want. So what have other people said on the comments? Okay, so that very long number. I mean, honestly, the first few sentences of your post are pretty damning. It sounds like you've wasted some of the best years of your life sinking everything into something you hate, and no reward, no life. Go get a different job, move out, have some fun, travel. I think they've mixed onto this idea that they are burnt out, that they clearly don't like their job. Rather than taking that person's, and this is one of the things that business consultants have to do, rather than taking that person on their word, let's actually look into it. What is actually annoying you? So you get, with employees and with organizations, you get, it's terrible, it's horrible. And when you ask them, well, how would you want to change it? Or is there a particular thing we can do to help you with that? It takes them a while to understand that actually it's maybe not as bad as they thought it was going to be. And it's not the end of the world. Or sometimes maybe it is the end of the world. Sometimes maybe it's not the right fit. But I usually try and investigate a little bit before before making an assumption that what that person has said is actually what they're feeling deep down, even subconsciously. Let's have a look at the next one. Being self-employed is hard, 100% agree. You have done well. 5 years, £100,000 a year turnover. It's good. It's not producing what he needs, but there are elements there that I say, okay, yeah, no, I can see it's our business. Is it a productive, positive business? Maybe, maybe not. But there are indicators there that underneath it, there are things that we could salvage. Look at what costs you can reduce, maybe a smaller unit. Yeah, 3,000 square feet seems a lot for I'm sure there's some efficiencies here. Do you really need to look at your pricing and stop letting your customers bully you? They need you. Yep. They want same day collection. That will be extra. They want things to happen quickly. That will be extra. They want tooling that's specific to what they want. That's extra. But if you're selling stuff on eBay, you don't get to have that conversation. You put a product on, they buy the product, you ship the product. Prices are going up. Yes. All of that kind of stuff. So that's kind of the first one that we've looked at, and I think my big lesson would be, yes, things can be tough, yes, things can be terrible. A lot of that is mentality, but also if you're going in as a consultant, you need to make sure that you're looking at what the actual problem is rather than what the problem they're saying is. And so that for me is where I would focus this on, is how much of this is true. And I don't mean that they're lying. I mean, he says the business is terrible, but it makes £100,000 a year. Which one of those is true? Is he actually making 100,000? Where's all the money going? Investigate, consult, be empathetic, be understanding of that person's perspective, but try and nudge that perspective into a more positive way. So let's have a look at another one. Feeling so defeated and deflated, I want to give up. Well, the second one, and this is actually from the top most on Small Business UK. These are the most commented and liked and upvoted, and so the top two have all been about wanting to give up as a small business, and I get it. And because running a small business is hard, it's much easier to go and get a job, but that comes with its own challenges, and so it's got to be right for you. So let's have a see what they say. Nobody around me will understand, so I'm hoping someone can resonate. I feel absolutely defeated and deflated and on the brink of giving up. The new business rules starting in April are just looming over my head, and I don't know what else I can do to grow and bring more money in. So many other rosters seem to be full of clients. I stupidly started listening to a coffee podcast, and they all talk about how they have 400 to 500 or 100 wholesale clients, and I'm just ripping my head off trying to figure out how I can get 10. It's such a nightmare. On top of that, staff pay at the cafe is going to increase because of the new minimum wage. We're behind on so many cafe payments, I just don't know how else to move forward. We have a huge roaster just chilling in the factory, and it's paying rent and stocks of coffee just waiting to be roasted, but literally no one is willing to have a conversation. I think it would be less frustrating if I hadn't already invested so much money into the business already. I think it would be happy with where I am, maybe if I could see potential, but I can't see potential, and the fact that it is so hard to take one step forward, it's really upsetting. I am sure I feel just completely deflated. Anyway, I can't talk to anyone around me, so I have to swallow my pride and get back to cold email and cold calls. We've even put together a cheaper range for churches and community cafes, and they're not interested either. Okay, so we're going to run through this. There's a couple of quick lessons that we can kind of take from this. They don't have anyone to talk to. That is the solo life of a business owner. You can't turn around to your employees and say how terrible everything is. I have a nice network of other business owners that I work with and have chatted with, and we moan about business all the time. That's incredibly therapeutic for me, even as a business consultant, to go to people and anonymously say, I'm really frustrated, and understand that they're not going to spread that around. So get a community around you, whether that's not necessarily family and friends, because they come with their own issues and their own thought processes. And so I have a couple of people that I can just go and moan at, and then they come and moan at me, and no one's trying to solve a problem. So that's really important. Listening to podcasts and trying to get ideas. No one starts a podcast that's about people failing. And majority of my books on their business books, I always get to the end of them and go, that's great, those are some amazing stories that you came up with, and isn't that brilliant that all those people succeeded? But what happens when you fail? What happens when when too much of a good thing is all of that? That's my biggest criticism of most business books, is they focus on selling you an idea and not preparing you for when it goes wrong, or looking at other ways that things have gone. Look at so many other roasters, I assume that is, seems to be full of clients. Talking about having 4 and 4. Yet again, it's not your business. And yes, you can learn things from them, but envy is horrible. Envy is every moment you're thinking and being envious of other companies, you're not thinking about your own company. And if you're being envious, you're wasting time, I would say. Staff pay at the cafe is going to increase because of the new minimum wage. Yes, that is completely true. You've also got increased national insurance costs, increased pricing and all of that kind of stuff. I get it. It's a difficult thing, but it's been a while. I'd say, this was a month ago. That came in 3 or 4 months ago. If changes need to be made, they need to be made sooner. But they don't come out. Yes, they have come out the blue back in October, but they're not coming out of the blue now. And so to be only a month away from those changes and still not have a plan is a bit of a difficult one. A huge roaster just chilling in the factory, and it's paying rent and stocks of coffee just waiting to be roasted. No one is willing to have a conversation. Further down, they say cold emails, cold calls. I wonder how much they are spending on their marketing. And I'm wondering how much there is in business development here. So that no one is willing to have a conversation. Why aren't they willing to have a conversation? Are they the wrong person? Is it the wrong time? Are you too expensive? All of these kind of things are questions that are not asked here. He can see the potential, so it's there, okay? And whether that's delusional or not, he sees or she sees it's there. So my question would be, why aren't they interested? And can they be interested? Coffee's huge. You've got, how you selling it the right way. You sell it in the right quantities. But all of that costs money. And it seems to me like, because they're talking about staff wages and all of that, that they don't have that amount of money to invest in the business. They put together a cheaper range for churches and community cafes, but they're not interested. One of my questions would be, did they speak? And it might be yes. Did they speak to churches and community cafes before looking at that? For me, most community churches and cafes are looking for the lowest possible range. And there's no way that you can compete with, bad coffee at churches and community cafes is bad coffee because they don't have the money to spend. And people don't go to churches and community cafes for a perfect cup of coffee. They go because it's cheap, because they want to support the community. So is that the right area that you're going in? What research, what customer analysis, have they asked other people? I don't know the answer to that, but it feels to me like they're not. And whereas the other one smelt and felt like burnout and stress and being bashed on the head with a large hammer, this feels like envy. So the main concern I would have here is, if you're a roaster with more than five clients, congratulations, but I don't want to hear it. There's that envy. There's that, I want to be better. I want to be bigger. Planning, understanding your customers, creating a niche for yourself, all of that stuff is really important. And none of it gets done with envy. None of it gets done, because what envious people don't do is be independent and learn about competitors. They just hate their competitors and they just want to be their competitors, but they don't actually look as to how to do that. And so for me, I would want to, again, shift the mentality away from other roasters are doing this and I'm not, and I'm despondent, to let's work out how this works. Let's work if it's a viable company. I'd rather know now than later. I don't want to be an ostrich sticking my head in the sand. That's what I would do first. Second is, where can we grow our business? What can we do? Who can we partner with? What information can I get for free to allow me to adapt and change to this industry? That's what I would do. Let's see what other people have said. People who are struggling don't generally go and make podcasts. It's why everything seems so rosy. My entire problem with social media is you have to be perfect. Everything is gorgeous and everything is a success, because it's a pony show. I always call it a pony show, and that's why I find being on social media quite difficult. And usually, if we need some social media expertise, I will bring in a expert on a project to deliver the social media, because I don't have the right level of cynicism and I don't have the right level of positivity for social media, but I understand how positive it can be for a business, and so I will always bring people in. Let's have a look. Roast and grind 50k and hand them out to 200 local businesses as a free sample. Yep, assuming creditors would wipe out your investment. There's no personal guarantees. I can see a little downside. Sure. This is really interesting. So, hi, I'm a potential customer. I own 3 cafes in Nottingham, about 40 to 45 kilograms a week. I use local roasters called Outpost and have been approached by dozens of roasters recently, had samples sent out without me asking, etc. Why am I not switching? This is golden. Greg, the owner, has grown loyalty from me by being incredibly helpful with all aspects of the business, delivering great customer service and a very competitive plan. I wouldn't leave his brand unless he left. And most importantly, amazing coffee. Everyone is in a customer service industry, doing a good job, providing free things and all of that. That's perfect, okay? It's very competitively priced. Good. What is that competitive price would be my question. And are you as a roaster meeting that? If you have to go lower, then that can be quite difficult. You don't want to be a race to the bottom. So how do you provide value? Because what Greg, the owner of this of Outpost, is doing is he's providing that extra value with great customer service. So my advice to you is trying to get into startups who aren't loyal to a roaster. Once they've found someone they trust, it'll be very difficult to get their business. I agree. So can you look at planning permissions? Can you look at new coffee shops? Can you look in your area? All of that kind of stuff. That would be useful. Very competitive market. Make sure you're discoverable, good on your website, ads running on Google as much as you can afford. Ads running on Google, I'm not 100% sure. B2B is fine, but I don't think, in my mind, and I would want to do the research on this, I don't think when someone is annoyed with their coffee supplier, they would immediately run to, especially if earlier on there saying that this person is getting lots of free samples and stuff, I think that's something you're probably going to have to do to just be in the game. I don't think people would be running ads, but again, do it, test it, work with a specialist. Yeah, and cafe, and again, last one is cafes are a real struggle, and the rates are low, rates are high, and profits are low, and it's a really difficult time. So be empathetic and sympathetic to that as well. Cool. So we'll do one more. Again, in fact, no, I think we're going to do this one. So this is a quick one. So why does being a small business owner feel like being the world's biggest unpaid intern? Yeah, we've been through this before. Today is a good day for me. I am getting paid for 5 of the 7 hours I'm working today. All of last week, I got paid £0 for all of the work I was doing because I was working on my own personal work, or I was working on free charity pro bono stuff. And so, yeah, being an unpaid intern is difficult, but unpaid is fine, because your aim is to get paid, and are you focusing on the right things? Intern isn't true. I would say if you're working 60 hours a week and still wondering if you can afford a takeaway, it might be an issue with profitability, as we've previously talked. Again, envy. Meanwhile, your friends in 9 to 5 are complaining about their tough day. You haven't seen a tough day, and so you've tried to figure out that at 2 a.m. while your email box turns into a never-ending horror show. Yeah, and I know this is done tongue-in-cheek, and I'm not turning around to Leodimoth, maybe, and saying that it's being terrible and they're being downhearted. But again, you run a business. You want to run a business. If you don't want to run a business, you need to find a way to either run that business in a way that's going to help you, or go do something else. So, finally, customers are abusing my free trial offer. Anyone experienced with debt collection agencies? What can I do? That is a hell of a sentence. Customers are abusing my free trial offer. Okay, I'm really interested to see what that looks like. And then automatically looking at debt collection agencies. Hoping someone can offer advice. I launched my sports business 3 weeks ago, selling filtered shower heads. As part of a promo, we ran a 10-day free trial. Customers get the product to try at home. If they don't return it, we charge their card £68 after 10 days. We take 0 up front, but they must check out using a debit or credit card or shop pay. I was crystal clear about the terms. It stated on the product page and in the T's and C's, try for free today, pay £68 in 10 days. Despite this, I've quickly learned how many rats are out there who will do anything to get something for free. We have sold 100 units. So that's about six, let's call it 7 grand. We are now 4 days into collecting payments. Of those attempted, 85% have bounced. Insufficient funds, revoked cards, cards not found. The cost is around £6,000 in lost revenue. Some customers are even lying about not receiving their parcel, despite Royal Mail Track 24. I suspect many of them old burners accounts. Their question is, has anyone dealt with this before? Can I go to a debt collection agency? I have a 60-day return policy. All of that. This, I would personally say, is an absolutely terrible business idea. You are offering something for free and saying 0 up front, but then you're charging £68 after 10 days. The majority of people who will take this offer up are the kinds of people who want something for free. And what a lot of people don't understand with sales and marketing is you will attract the people who like the thing you're selling most. And if you're selling free and people can see a scam and people can see a way to get something for nothing, those people will. Now, I'm not saying that all people will. I'm just saying the people who will eventually try and sign up is difficult. So there's a couple of things I would say here. All of this is designed to kind of get people on the hook, I would say. I don't think it's particularly moral and ethical to send someone something for free and then expect them to send it back, and if you don't, you charge them. It feels very kind of old school, sign up and then we'll start charging you. I don't like it. From an ethical point of view, I don't like it. From a business point of view, it's incredibly risky. because people can, have insufficient funds, revoke cards, and all of that. I think that's really important to understand. I think you've put yourself in a position where you are incredibly vulnerable to losing money. There is actually no things here that can save you, I would say. And so I would completely not have this. I would never, as a business consultant, work with an organization that wanted to do something like this. I would obviously try and counsel them, but if they were wanted to go ahead with this, I wouldn't, because it makes me feel deeply uncomfortable as a business proposition. I would also say that a debt collection agency will not touch something like this for £69. I also think that you're probably going to be tied up in ridiculous numbers of things, terms and conditions, all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, I'll never run a free trial without a pre-authorization hold again. Yes, to be fair, I wouldn't run a free trial on a physical product ever. I don't know what organizations, a lot of people do like 100-night, I'm thinking of mattresses, 100-night guarantee or a year guarantee, and you can send it back, but they take the money up front. And I think it would be quite difficult for anyone to create a system like this that is going to be a positive experience for anyone, because you're attracting people who are interested by the £0, not the £68 after 10 days. I think that has been proven by the fact that 85% of things have bounced. And so you have been shown that this can't be done. So negatives, the way the business model is set up, the amount of extra admin and effort, and talking about debt collection agencies, that's a big no-no for me. But the positive is yes, you may have lost £6,000, but the free trial, you'll never do it again. Fine. Yes, it's an expensive mistake, but as long as you learn from it, it's fine. Let's see what I'm thinking. Okay, significant fail, 3713. I think you really messed up here. Surely people would have just used a prepaid card and to know the payment was going to bounce. Yes. This doesn't sound like a bunch of people trying to get a free shower. This sounds like organized fraud. I disagree. I think lots of people would do this, and I think that's fine. Feel your pain. I retired a few years ago with people trying to exploit our website. Yeah. Yeah, it's a loophole. And whether it's a good loophole or a bad loophole, and yes, you can feel bad for people who are, you can feel like those people are terrible for not, for taking advantage of you. But unfortunately, that's what people are like. So my question would be, stress test it. Maybe, if you were going to do something like this, have a very small, limited number of people, do a test batch of 10, see how it works. You go, okay, that was terrible. It'd still be 400, 500, 600 quid's worth of reduction, but it wouldn't be £6,000. And so, yeah, for me, I would steer well away from doing anything like this. So there you go. We've had 3 and a bit, and I really enjoyed it. Hopefully you've gained some good thoughts about your own business. If you'd like a free consultation from Underpin Consultants, please get in contact. You can leave a comment in below. As I said, we did 3 last week. I've got another 4 this week. We love chatting to businesses and providing them with free, impartial information. And then some of those work users and some of those don't. And that's perfectly fine with us, because that's the way our business model works. And unlike this one, where I lose lots of money, I'm going in knowing that this is going to cost me an hour of my time, and I might get nothing out of it, rather than expecting people to pay £68 after 10 days. So it's a business development opportunity. So thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.